Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch Online TV. With you today is none other than Teacher Fidelis of Alliance High School. I'm a teacher of English, an author and an editor. With me today, I have Teacher Risper. She's from Kikuyu, PCA Kikuyu High School. She's a teacher of English, an author and an examiner. Next, we have Teacher Emis. She's from Alliance Girls High School. She's a teacher of English, an examiner, and of course, a renowned author. Students at home, today we're looking at something different and we're focusing on essay writing. This is an integral part of English paper 3 because, as you know, we have to write at least 3 compositions or essays in English paper 3. But our focus today is on essay writing. And using this book, Guru English, we shall be looking at a number of essays that we have discussed, and our authors here will be explaining how you go about writing essays. Just know that for our Form 4s, this is a paper you can perform so well in. If you're having 20 marks for this essay, you can get 18 or 20 out of 20 using all the techniques that we shall discuss today. So to start with, we shall be looking at the guidelines. What do you need when you write an essay? Of course, you have to talk about the introduction, the body, the conclusion, but our teacher will give more information on this. So Teacher Risper, kindly take us through.
Thank you for the opportunity, Teacher Fidelis. From what my colleague is saying, that you can even score a 20 out of 20, it is actually possible. If you're within the right, it is possible that you can get the 20 out of 20 if you're well guided. Looking at an essay comes in paper 3 and it is testing, it is a composition testing what you have done in our set books. Now, what are the parts of an essay? First of all, before you can even go to the parts of an essay will give you a question that looks at achieving a sound argument, and then your illustrations should be coming from a particular book. That is why in an essay question, they will always mention according to which book are you making reference to. And an essay, the question that will be phrased, nowadays NEC has taken an approach that tests a two-sided question. A two-sided question that requires, first of all, you underline the keywords. The keywords as in exactly what are you being asked. Are you able to capture the full argument, the two sides of the question? If you're able to do that, then you're on the right track. First of all, I'll talk about the breakup of marks. What makes up for the 20 marks? 2 marks include the introduction. Then the body will take up 12 marks. The conclusion will take up another 2 marks. That totals up to 16. Now you'll be wondering, where am I getting the extra 4 marks so that I get to the 20? The 4 extra marks will be pegged on language, your usage of grammar, because literature at the end of the day, it is literature being tested in the English language. Therefore, it is vital that you also have some marks for grammar. I'll start by mentioning a few things about the introduction. I'll take you through the different types of introduction. And for a student, it is not that you're supposed to use all the types of introductions, but the one that you'll find easiest for you to use. First of all, you have the general introduction, the one that you compare what the question is asking for, and then you cite an incident from what is happening in your society. That becomes a general introduction. We still have a contextualized introduction, whereby whatever we'll be talking about in the introduction, tie it to the book. And our book for today is Fathers of Nations. You can talk about, in brief, some of the things that will be, some of the points that we'll be tackling in the body. Another type of introduction, we call it the paraphrase type of introduction. In a paraphrased introduction, you can now, in your own words, using synonyms, interpret what is the question asking you. That becomes a paraphrased type of introduction. And when you're doing the paraphrased, please avoid the exact words that were used in the question beforehand. If you're going back to the same words that were used in the question, we call it echoing the question. You have not interpreted what is the question asking me, but you're simply echoing by repeating the words. Another introduction that you have, we call it the general to the contextualized. The general to the contextualized makes use of the general type of introduction, and then you get into the book. What about the book? What does it say about the same question? That is a general to a contextualized introduction. And let me caution about something when I'm talking about the introduction. We are moving with the trends. What NEC will be requiring of us is what you're going to do in our discussion. A word of caution is that in case the question is particular, for example, the question is with reference to Ngobile Melusi, you have to capture that one in your introduction. Like last year's, when I look at the trends with NEC, last year they were talking about Nora.
Yeah.
Students were able to give very good introductions, but they failed to go back to the contextualized, talking about Nora. You can start from the general, but without Nora, you couldn't score there 2 out of 2 marks. Therefore, students, be cautioned. Whenever a character has been mentioned, whenever it is specific to a character, please also include them as part of your introduction. Another part that you've mentioned about the essay will also contain the body. The body carries the bulk of the marks. It is equivalent to 12 marks. 12 marks are 4 well-explained points, and each point to carry with it 3 marks. Now for each point, what are we looking for? Before we can talk about a point being conclusive. A point, first of all, a point should be presented in a paragraph of its own. You can choose to even use the transitional words, first of all, secondly, but it is not a must. As long as each point is in a paragraph of its own, you are actually on the right track. In that paragraph that you want it to be conclusive, to be able to score the 3 marks, first of all, introduce your point using the topic sentence. The topic sentence is easy to come by because if I ask you a random question, the answer that you'll be giving me towards answering in point form, maybe just rough work. In point form, what you'll be mentioning, you can now take each point and make it a topic sentence on its own. That one, students, I'm sure you can get. Then still on the same paragraph, you're still on the same point. You've only scored 1 mark. And it is so unfortunate that our students nowadays, they get the points, but now the development of the point is what is missing. They can choose to view a question, but they only answer one side of the question. But we shall be showing you, students, how to do it until you get to your 3 marks. Now you have your topic sentence, 1 mark. Moving on, we are going to something we call the background information. The background information mostly is about the illustrations. And a better student, when they're tackling that question, they can even be using the words of a certain character. How did they bring it out? Also, before you can land the 2nd mark, now we are already in the background information. That is where you'll tell us a lot. That is where you'll display your understanding of the text in question. And finally, to come up with a conclusive paragraph, it also requires that it has a clincher. A clincher is what summarizes that paragraph. We had the topic sentence. We had a lot of illustrations that were geared towards making the point convincing. In literature, we don't give marks. You actually earn the marks. Make your argument convincing, and at the end of it, you clinch. To clinch is to hold together. And the clincher part comes mostly in answering the 2nd part of our question. And for example, maybe later on I'll be tackling a question on betrayal comes mostly from people who are close to us. First of all, you need to talk about the topic sentence. First of all, we see that Ngobile Melusi was betrayed. That becomes the topic sentence. Then you go ahead and give us the background information. How was Melusi? First of all, the people who are close to us. In such a question and I'm handling, I'll be looking at the background information. Show us how these people were close. So that when the clincher comes in that this guy denied Melusi a ministerial position, we shall see this one as outright betrayal. The point will be cemented. The point will come out very clearly. That is it about the body. Each point to go through the topic sentence, to the background information, to the clincher. That is 1 point on its own. And you do the same for the other 3 points. We are picking the best 4 points. Moving on, now that we assume that your body already had 4 different paragraphs, we still have another part of an essay which is equally important. We started with an introduction. Why do we not end with a conclusion? And nowadays we are past the days when someone simply talks about, based on the above argument, it is true to say that we are past that kind of conclusion. Nowadays, the conclusions that you want, I think I'll limit you. I'll limit you to, you can offer some kind of advice. We are supposed to learn a moral lesson from an essay. That is what you're arguing about. Now, from that, what can we learn? I'll go back to this to the question about betrayal. At the end of it, you can advise someone and say, we should not put all our hope in people, as people have proven that they can, at one point or another, turn against us. That is a point of advice. Another type of conclusion that can be good can be a summary of the points that someone had in the body without introducing a new one. If you did not have a certain point among your points in the body, please do not introduce it at the end of it in terms of conclusion. The final part of an essay, we said, it will be marked under language. We are looking at the language use, and unfortunately, language use is very particular. According to how many marks you've got in the body, it will also determine your language. For example, even if you did not get a single point in the body, we shall give you 1 mark for grammar. So 0 to 4 marks in the body automatically earns you 1 mark of grammar. Then you go to 5 and 6 marks in the body, earning you automatically 2 in language. Then 7 and 8 earns you 3 marks in the language. And finally, 9 up to 12, that is a student who has understood the book. Automatically, if you have between 9 and 12 in your body, we give you the extra 4 for language. That is it, how an essay is marked and what to consider.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Risper. And of course, students at home, now you know how you go about writing an essay. And I've seen students complaining sometimes that they have written a lot of information, but they end up getting a theme. By a theme, we mean just 1 mark out of the 3 in the paragraph. But using the information that our teacher has shared, then you know that you must have a topic sentence. For instance, I can't say that I have a topic sentence on Teacher Risper, but the information I'm giving is about Teacher Emis. So if you're talking about that particular character, then you follow through until you come up with a clincher. And students at home, you see, in the body, if you're giving a lot of information and you're having high scores, then your language mark also goes higher. So work on giving all the information that we need in the body, and this will ensure that you get high marks in the essays. And now we shall be using our book here, English Guru. We have some samples of the essay. Again, remember that we're using Fathers of Nations. And the very first sample that we shall look at will be handled by Teacher Emis. Kindly take us through.
Hello viewers, thank you Teacher Fidelis. I'm going to give a sample essay from our book, Top Notch Guru. The essay is on page 311. Essay number 5, and the essays from Fathers of Nations. So the question reads, a bad system can destroy good people. A bad system can destroy good people. Teacher Risper here said that most of the essay questions nowadays are two-sided.
Yeah.
Like the one we have here, this is a two-sided essay question, because first of all you look at the evils in the government, that is the bad system, and also how a character used to be good, but the evils in this system now, or the government, have in a way affected their good character or their morals. They have corrupted their morals in one way or the other. So the kind of introduction we have for this essay, she gave a very good analysis of the kind of introductions that we have. The one we have here specifically is the general introduction. So it says that when a country has poor governance or is under bad leadership, the citizens try to adapt to it, and as a result, even the good ones can have their morals corrupted. So this one is a general introduction, right? It does not go to the book.
Yeah.
So she also talked about the parts of each paragraph in the body. So I'm going to use our first paragraph here to give like a breakdown of what she talked about, the topic sentence, the background information, which also called the supporting sentences, as well as the clincher sentence. So our first point, we have the topic sentence, and we have the transitional words to begin with. So we have to begin with: a government that exercises tribalism may make its citizens bitter. So that's our topic sentence. So in this paragraph, we know that we are going to talk about a system that is tribalistic, and how that evil or that ill of tribalism affected some of the citizens that used to be good, and now it corrupted their morality. So for example, here, for our background information, or to support or to back up our topic sentence, we have the president of the Zimbabwe. The president of Zimbabwe is here brought out as being tribalistic. He favors his tribe Shona against the Ndebele tribe. So, and as a result, so that is now, we are starting on the background information. So as a result, it refers to every member of the Ndebele community as his opponent. So after taking over the presidency, he orders that the people of Ndebele are killed. So he forms a gang to go and kill the people of Ndebele, whom he refers to as his opponents. So the president does not even spare some of his supporters who used to work together or closely with to fight the white people for him to get, or for the country to get or attain independence. So it does not spare people like Melusi. So initially, Melusi is brought out as a very good citizen of Zimbabwe, who helps the leaders to even fight for independence, who supports the leaders until they also get the position that they were vying for. But later on, we see, as a result of tribalism, bad system, a government full of tribalism, now it destroys him. When Ziliza, Melusi's wife, is killed as a result of these tribal wars, it destroys Melusi. It turns him from that good person that we used to know to someone who is bitter, someone who is only thinking about revenge. He wants to take revenge against what was done to his wife. So clearly you can see this question has been answered, that the government full of tribalism has turned a character used to be a good person, Melusi, into someone who is bitter and someone who is vengeful. And so what does he do? He does anything, including joining politics and Hagda, so as to bring down the president. So that was the first point. The second point, I'll just look at the first 2 points because it's just an example. And then the other 2 points, the students, you can get a copy and then you can just go through the points. So the second point, our topic sentence was: secondly, greed and selfishness among the leaders can make the citizens suffer as a result, and they become bitter. In this case, we use the case of Professor Karanja from Kenya, because you can see how greedy the leaders in the Kenyan system are. For example, they come up with a law, they pass a law, a bill, to increase the salaries of the members of parliament to 100 times the salary that the professors were earning. So the Karanja wonders, initially we as professors used to earn more than the members of parliament. Now they are earning 100 times more than we are earning, and their salary is not being taxed, but the little I'm earning and the professor is being taxed. So that brings out the aspect of the leaders as being greedy and being selfish. So as a result, it also makes this person, the professor Karanja, to become a very bitter person, to become a violent person, because one member of parliament goes even an extra mile to steal his wife. So it turns him to a bitter person, it turns him to a person who is very violent. And so a person used to be a law-abiding person, citizen of Kenya. Now the government, or the bad system, corrupts his morals, and he changes and becomes a bitter and a violent man. And so, of course, just to clinch the paragraph, like our teacher said, we have he also joins Agada with the aim of getting back at the government. So students are using those two examples. Of course, the essay has 4 paragraphs or 4 points that are well developed, but get a copy of this book. We also have so many other themes, and teacher Risper here will also talk more about some other themes. And of course, we have a conclusion, all in the same book.
Yeah. Thank you, teacher Emis. Of course, students at home, you see how we develop a paragraph. Because if you're not having a topic sentence, the teacher or the examiner won't be aware of what you're talking about. So number one, when you have to discuss or write an essay, ensure that you're having a topic sentence. Have supporting sentences. Give that background information. And as our teachers have said, NEC is having a question that is having two sides. And just know that if you're just answering one side of the question, then you won't get your three marks. So if you're looking at a bad system destroying good people, if you just look at the bad system without actually showcasing how these good people have been destroyed, then you're not answering the question. And as the teachers keep saying, ensure that you're having an argument, a sound argument, so that when you describe your points, then we see that you're actually answering the question at hand. And maybe using the same book, we can look at another sample so that we get to see a different question and actually how we get to tackle that. Teacher Risper.
Yes, now let me use a sample from the book English Guru. It has been so well explained and it is able to put into perspective what we have already discussed. The question in hand I'll be taking it from page 308. If you're having a copy of the book, please make reference, and the question goes like this. In most cases, betrayal comes from people we are close to. Using clear illustrations from Paul Vita's Fathers of Nations, justify this statement. If I were a student today, I'll first of all endeavor to understand the question. In understanding the question, you're first of all underlining the keywords. The keywords are betrayal, and another one is comes from people we are close to. Over here, if I'm rating this question, we are about to prove 2 instances. One, an instance of betrayal. All your points should gear towards proving this betrayal. Another thing, we are supposed to prove a close relationship. That is it. If you understand, it is about a close relationship that ends up in betrayal. Even by just explaining, if you could have taken my explanation words into an introduction, you could have had a kind of introduction that you're calling a paraphrased. Anyway, we can still use the introduction over here, which is a very good introduction. It is an introduction that is general, and it says, the people we consider friends or whom we put our trust in may become treacherous. This is brought out through characters in Fathers of Nations who worked closely with people they thought they trusted, but later learned that they are traitorous. In fact, I want to just consider the introduction. From what I'm looking at, they've used an introduction that is general to contextualized. I'm seeing them touching on the book Fathers of Nations. Then, as we had earlier said, let me start by picking 2 among the points. The points are 4, and you even have more if you could pick a copy of the book. But first of all, I'll pick a point on the first one. I'll pick the second point. I don't want to pick on Gobile because my colleague formally has already touched on Gobile in another instance. Therefore, let me pick on another character. Let me talk about Seif Tahir. When I'm talking about Seif Tahir, we are about to prove 2 things. We are about to prove that there's betrayal and also a close relationship with their traitor. Before I can read what has been written down, just in my own words, when you're looking at Seif Tahir being betrayed, we look at the close relationship that he had prior with the president of Libya. Maybe they might not have known each other in person, but you see that Seif was an admirer of the president of Libya. That is one. Another thing, Tahir was also working in the Ministry of Defense under the leadership of that president. Therefore, if you could develop those ones into sentences, you are able to prove their close relationship. He even goes, the background information, he even goes to further his studies so that he can help his own country. Then an issue of betrayal arises. It arises in the fact that we see the president, out of fear, calling off the program that was manufacturing nuclear weapons. He calls off the program of the Feast of Allah. That is where the betrayal comes in. And to also capture, the student who can use the words of the book. I'm not talking about cramming, but the words of the book. It comes out strongly. When he's talking about this is an act of betrayal against something which is sacred. Those were the thoughts of Tahir. And then in reading, we can say, we start by a topic sentence. Saif Tahir becomes bitter after he is betrayed by Libya's president. That sentence on its own stands to gain 1 mark. It is a topic sentence. Further on, now the part of going ahead to convince the examiner is you'll have a series of developing statements that develop the argument. We are now on our background information that says, after coming back to Libya from Paris, where he had gone to study weapons development, Saif ardently defended the president of Libya from his opponents by stating all good things the president had done for Libya. We are seeing that close relationship being developed. Saif liked the president especially for launching Feast of Allah, a program for making nuclear bombs. Saif joined this program and he had all the financial support he needed from the president. We are still further on a close relationship. As the point progresses, we are being told the betrayal, the person, the discussion of this point, the person was very particular about going through the 3 stages. The topic sentence is there, a tick. The background information is there, a tick. Now we are on the clincher. We are here, and it says, the betrayal comes when the president destroys Saif's most treasured Feast of Allah after Al Qaeda attacked America. The president was afraid that America might attack Libya in retaliation. Saif now lost trust in him and hated him. The close relationship, the betrayal has been proven a very good point. I only say that I'll dwell on only 2 points. The other point I want to dwell on is also a character we don't touch on many times. So if I see an opportunity to touch on the character, let me use it as the second example. We're going to talk about Asiya, wife of Professor Karanja. The close relationship. This has been his wife, the wife of his youth, up to when they're 60. They must have stayed they must have stayed together for a long time. Therefore, we are seeing the close relationship. Even to further on that close relationship, they had a daughter together. And then insets the betrayal. The wife wakes up one morning and she says she is leaving him. And even whom is she leaving him for? Another close associate, who is newborn Walomu, who had been the colleague of the husband. Now betrayal is coming from 2 close relationship, husband's former colleague. At the same time, it is coming from a wife of many years. Asiya is 60 years old and way older than newborn. She leaves Karanja. The painful part, she leaves Karanja only 6 months after bearing their only child, Tuni. Instead of sticking together in a period of difficulty, Asiya, who is supposed to be the closest person to Karanja, leaves him. Betrayal has been proven, the close relationship has been proven. And to clinch the whole discussion, it says clearly, betrayal comes from those close to us. The person is like, if this is a student writing, they're like challenging the examiner. I've been able to prove the close relationship, I've been able to prove the betrayal, then why am I not justified to say clearly betrayal comes from those close to us? That is another very good point. And for the other points, get a copy of English Guru. And taking me to the conclusion, and an essay should go up to the end. The conclusion says, in conclusion, people we consider close to us may sometimes stab our backs to protect themselves or for their own interest. That is a very good type of conclusion, bringing the essay to an end. I hope the students are able to understand, using our essays, how an essay goes through the whole process to become full.
Complete essay. Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Risper. And of course, students at home, I'm very sure that you can get your 20 marks. and it is possible to actually get 20 marks in essay rating. The most important thing, I'll just do a reminder of what our teachers have covered. And of course, you need an introduction, the body, and a conclusion. In the body, we have talked about having 4 points. I don't know what happens now if a student now goes ahead and gives more than 4 points. Teacher Risper.
You pick the best 4.
Mm-hmm.
If one had 1 mark, maybe they have 5 different points.
Yeah.
4 of them have scored to 2 marks and 1 has scored 1.
Mm-hmm.
All of them will be marked, and then the one that has 1 mark cancelled out, because you cannot be marking for them 5 points while we are marking for others 4 points. The one that scores the least, we pull it out.
Mm-hmm. So in this case, students, I think it's imperative for you to just give the 4 points and ensure that you have given all the information that you need. And remember, we have talked about the body having 12 points. So, and of course, if you're getting a high mark in the body, you're also getting a high mark in the language mark. A conclusion. Use concluding phrases. Yeah, do not introduce any new point in your conclusion. If you don't have a conclusion, again, just know that you're missing out on two marks.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we have an introduction, a conclusion is also important. And with that, we have some additional information, Teacher.
Okay, before I forget, a conclusion can be valid or invalid. At the end of the conclusion, it is either valid or invalid.
Okay.
It has to relate with our question.
Yeah.
And there's an instance where your conclusion can be valid, yet instead of 2 marks, we're giving you 1. What might have happened? What might have happened is, if you don't get 6 marks and above in the body, your conclusion, as much as it might be valid, it cannot also earn the 2 out of 2 marks.
Okay.
You can have a valid conclusion, but then going back to the marks on the marks of the body, you got 4.
Yeah.
Therefore, your conclusion will earn 1 mark.
Okay. So I think with this information, then you have to earn more than 6 marks to actually get the 2.
6 and above.
Yeah,
Yes.
6 and above to actually get the 2.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the conclusion marks are
Yeah.
tied to the body,
Yes.
just as the language marks.
Yes,
Wonderful. So again, we see the importance of having high marks in the body. And of course, if you're following everything that we have discussed today, then you can be sure to get 8 or 9 out of 12 in the body, which is a good mark to ensure that you earn 2 marks in your conclusion and also have high marks in your language. And using the English guru, we have so many other essays from Fathers of Nations and also from other books that we have done, and we shall continue having more discussions. And as usual, if you have any question that you would want us to look at, of course you can leave that question in the comment section, and we shall have a discussion on it. The teachers have just discussed 2 points, but we have the 4 points. Remember, we have talked about having 4 points for an essay to be complete. So once you have your copy of English Guru, then you can go through all the points that we have and also look at the other essays that we have in the book. And with that, it's a goodbye from us. Until next time. Goodbye.